So you look at the Patriots safety group, Kyle Dugger, Jabrill Peppers, obviously the vets of this group, Jalen Hawkins, finding his way into the league is good as a free safety. Marcus Epps, free agency signing. Del Pettis, draft pick. Craig Woodson, the rookie. All of these guys have defined roles in a way. They all could be versatile in certain ways. This is a deep group, and that's what I love about it. I love the depth they have. I love the complementary pieces. And all of these guys, especially Jalen Hawkins, Marcus Epps, and Craig Woodson, really good coverage pieces. And I think that, my thing is, you want Kyle Dugger, that would be the drum I bang the whole time in Jabrill Peppers, to play where they're strongest. Well, the guys that they either signed or drafted or retained, whatever, those are the dudes that let them play to their spots.
Yeah, absolutely. A little bit of different responsibility, but Marcus Epps is what stands out to me here, considering some of the teams that he had a chance to play with, the timing and kind of the success that some of these teams found. It was around the miracle time for Minnesota. I mean, he was freshly in the league at this moment, but considering the guys he got to learn from and under, you're talking about one of the best secondaries in the league from 2016, 17, 18, 19 when it came to Minnesota and what they were producing. They had Harrison the Hitman. They had all these people that he could learn from that he's referred back to. So I want to see what his impact is going to be. But you keep mentioning Dugger, probably because of the ability to be a leader on this team. I just wonder what kind of leader he'll have the opportunity to be. But I'm seeing that there might be some contractual push and shove here if Epps comes in and makes more of an impact or tends to be a little bit more of a leader in comparison to Dugger, regardless of slight different responsibilities.
Yeah, and I think if Epps steps in and he's a good free safety, and Kyle Dugger steps in and he's a good in-the-box safety, he can match up with tight ends, match up with slot receivers, and also be good in the run defense, then if they complement each other, like that's what you want. It's a cohesion of this. And even a guy like Amarte Mapu, who again this will be year 3 of him being in the league, can't consistently be on the field. Has seen same thing in a way of a Jabrill Peppers. Is he an in-the-box linebacker, but he's more athletic? All right, or is he a safety? He's worn the green dot in practice. He's worn it in games. He's really young to be doing that. That was a Bill Belichick draft pick where a lot of evaluators loved him coming out of Sacramento, but was still a guy that, is raw, is unpolished, wasn't playing at the high, power 5, power 4 level. That's someone that can get into all of this. It's with Dugger, it's in the box. With Jabrill Peppers, it's free safety. Craig Woodson, the rookie that they took out of Virginia, he can line up in the nickel, and we've heard Mike Vrabel say that position is so important. You have to match up with nickel corners. He could be a deep third safety. He could be on the boundary as a cornerback in the deep third again of the field. How is he matching up in man in the NFL if he needs to play that? And that's where, again, this is all progress and development, and we'll see. Where Marcus Epps is that vet to help teach these safeties how to play. He's helping lead this defense. Where Craig Woodson, he may not be what he really is. Again, that's a 4th-round pick. He may not be what he truly is until you get to year 3, possibly, and then you see him really make an impact.
Yeah, I guess the biggest concern with it is, like you just mentioned, there's some young guys on here, and I think that they're going to have a lot that they're going to have to be able to deliver when it comes to this upcoming season. But that's also where I think, like you said, sometimes it's like picks from Bill Belichick, and they need to be polished by Vrabel and company and that position group that's going to be pushing forward. Do you think that because of the expectation of this defense and the versatility and the athleticism, because they are athletic players, that they'll be able to manage this tall task at a young age?
Yeah, with Craig Woodson, I mean, that's a guy that can line up all over, and he's a really good open field tackler as well. He's someone I think that's the nickel corner, and he can play some free safety again in the coverage. What you get with Jabrill Peppers, and this is the last real year of the contract for him. Well, Kyle Dugger has a few years left, like real money actually getting paid. Yeah, for Peppers in a way, yeah, it is a prove a year, and perfect coaching staff for him to prove it to. I don't think he goes out and gets another big contract, his age and the wear and tear on his body, but someone that wants to get another contract and remain in the league. With Kyle Dugger, that's a guy too. I think it's most prove it on him. They have the capabilities though. It's the athleticism, it's the IQ. And when you go back 2 years ago, when Jabrill Peppers was there playing with a Kyle Dugger, and the defense was playing really well. For one of the worst offenses in the league, the defense was stepping up in Belichick's last year. It's those flashes. And what never made sense with last season, or maybe the most puzzling part, for as bad as the Patriots offense was in 2022, 23, 24, the defense always was showing up. Except for last season. Like we saw in Mac Jones' rookie year, defense was top 5. During the Patricia Joe Judge experimental season of 2022, defense was top 5, top 10. And even the following year when Bill O'Brien was in, I mean, it was basically everything was falling apart. The defense was showing up and keeping them in games. For it to all disassemble like we saw last season, that was a tough part to wrap your mind around watching this Patriots team because they had the same players. There were injuries. Peppers had a suspension. Christian Barmore had his blood clots. Juwan Bentley went down with the season-ending injury.
Oh, yes.
Like that all matters and that all adds up. But again, they weren't in tune, and the scheme DeMarcus Covington was running, Gerard Mayo with his defensive background, it didn't make sense. With good coaching, we've seen these guys do it. That's where the confidence comes through in a way.
Okay, so I love the breakdown of this because you mentioned basically they've always been a pretty good defense. Now, do you think it's fair to say that this position group, being what it is, the names that you've dropped, the expectation on them in the upcoming season is considered the weakest position?
No, I would say the weakest, and it's funny because of how top-heavy they are, if we're talking on the defense, but I would go with the cornerback room. Because you have Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, and then it gets really thin from that point on.
Okay.
Marcus Jones, undersized nickel corner. Alex Austin is good at man. But then after that, it's a lot of unproven pieces. And like I talk about it, Craig Woodson, he might have to play a lot of nickel corner. So when I say weakest, this safety group has so much depth and a lot of talent.
Right. Reliable depth is something in
exactly.
its own. Right.
Exactly. But like outside of Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, if one of those guys gets injured, if something happens to one of those guys, or you need cornerbacks to step up, it's a thin room for the cornerback room.
Okay.
How do you view, because you throw that out there, how do you view the safety room for this Patriots team? You think it's the weakest room out of all the position groups, or?
No, I don't think it's the weakest room. We've basically emphasized it enough to say, considering what Vrabel is expecting from these guys, I think that he has the right mentality in play for most of these defensive groups. But you make a great point. I think we've talked so much about Carlton Davis and Gonzalez that we didn't realize that, like, what was that drop-off point? Who's the next guy? And God forbid injuries, like who's the next most reliable cornerback? So I have to realistically say, didn't put that into context quite yet. For me, the weakest room, weirdly enough, I would almost say running back.
Okay, so you're looking on the offensive side.
I'm going back to the offensive side.
I mean, it's Ramondre has to hold on to the ball. The offensive line has to block.
Yeah,
Travion Henderson, that's a lot of expectations on a rookie. And again, like a lot of rookies redshirt their like quote unquote redshirt their rookie season in a McDaniels system.
Yeah.
And so you have Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson coming back. We know McDaniels wants to run the ball. We know the play action is essential for success in today's NFL, and just running the ball is essential for success overall. That all needs to happen. So we'll see what happens next. But I like the running back room if you go with the weakest, if you go all across the roster, not just focusing on the defense only.
Right. That's where I was. I don't mean to keep jumping back to the offensive side, but just looking at it
wherever we're talking ball
as a whole, it's become concerning. But I thought that was interesting because the way that you broke things down, like to say that the safety room potentially is the weakest one or could be. I just thought that that's where you can look at something being underrated and completely overlooked. I think that this team is going to help, or the safety group is going to help this team out a lot.
It's all about keeping everything in front of them. It's the guys in the box that can make havoc, and it's when you have 4 down defensive linemen where you want them to rush the passer. Everyone else keeps everything in front of them, and if you play man up, you need those guys to execute. It's who can step up in those facets. Now, we know Jabrill Peppers obviously dealt with his off-the-field issues last season, was away for the team for the duration of the season. Kyle Dugger never seemed healthy. He was battling something. It was a high ankle sprain we know about, but just like he never seemed 100%. The names to watch, though, really is a guy like a Jalen Hawkins who was good for this team. Didn't play a lot of reps at free safety, but if he can take a next step and be someone that's out there for, let's say, 70% of defensive snaps, I mean, that's a huge win for the potential of this Patriots defense. If Del Pettis can make a step up and play, say, 50, 60% of defensive snaps, like that's a part where I wouldn't be shocked if they have these guys stepping up. Let's say an Alex Austin steps up or a Marcus Jones steps up, and they are key contributors at cornerback position, that would shock me. I know what they're getting with the top 2 in the cornerback room. And that's where I try to think of the weakest, where this safety room, different definition, is definitely, to me, the deepest on this Patriots team. Because if we stick with the weakest 2, I would go with the weakest being the wide receiver room, opposite of the running backs.
I was wondering if that was going to come up.
I like Stephon Diggs, but when he's talking to reporters and he's kind of doing the, like, I don't share my personal life, people I don't know personally, but he's posting everything on Instagram, and then he posts the pink brownies, obviously alluding to the alleged pink drugs. Like, all right, that lack of maturity. And then
lack of
Jalen
integrity.
Polk, and then Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, like, what are you doing at this point? And I know they were headaches to the coaching staff, and can they even be active on Sundays? Pop Douglas is undersized, doesn't run block. Kendrick Bourne is getting up there in age, okay? And Kyle Williams, this is a tough playbook to pick up as a rookie. To me, that's the weakest point because they don't have anyone that's of elite talent.
Yeah.
And they also, it's not that deep because it's a lot of unproven guys in that room.
Yeah, and they don't have, while they have a veteran in Stephon Diggs, they don't have that like pull away presence of somebody who's just completely separated from the group and has that much more to offer from a leadership perspective or anything else. He said that he likes to do individual conversations for his leadership go ahead, but unfortunately you can't look away from how he's carried himself so far. Chisholm, for you.
If he makes a team, it's passing camp what they've done so far. You know, the mandatory mini camp. There's no pads on.
So you're ready to see.
I like his route running. Yeah, and that's it. Like that's a good name to bring up. But exactly, like the fact that an undrafted free agent could realistically make an impact and let alone play substantial snaps is
Hogan
also
did.
a reflection on the talent in that wide receiver room.
Yeah.
So it's dual edge. He can be good. That's also a guy where I'm not going to bank on him because it could be the Julian Edelman route where he's a contributor in a particular role 2 or 3 years, and then maybe year 3, year 4, then he breaks out as a receiver.
Right.
There's a big developmental curve. New offensive system, tough, complex system of Josh McDaniels, Drake May coming along as well. For him, not just to make the jump from playing at Washington State to the NFL, but if you're an undrafted free agent, like the draft is telling us what the NFL views you as, the talent evaluators view you as. So you have to go from being a guy that 32 teams picked up, passed on 7 times to now making impact. I like Chisholm. I like the base of his game. That's someone I like you bring that name up, but like the fact that you bring him up and I have to think about it, again, that's a reflection on the wide receiver room.
Yeah, that's true. And you had to give it an extra moment. And that's, again, all talking about with no pads on it. So we don't know the reality behind anybody's ability. So let me ask you this before we circle back to the defense, or it's going to get us back to the defense. What do you think the emphasis should be in this free agent market? Because the names that are coming up the most, you're looking at an add to the wide receiving room, hopefully, because the money is there, the capability is there. As long as the buy-in of the retool is there, then you're looking at a number of fits. But would you add depth to that cornerback room? If you had to pick one.
No, I'm fine with, yes, I would add depth to the cornerback room. But if I had to pick one, and again, like Craig Woodson can end up playing corner, it could change a lot. And I think you can figure out ways with all the safety depth you have and the free safeties to make it work. Again, when you get out of camp, what does a wide receiver room look like? What does a cornerback room look like? I know I keep throwing out like Alex Austin's names like he's not substantial. That was a guy that was like a starting corner at the end of 2 seasons ago. That's a guy that plays good in man. 6 foot plus, bigger cornerback, was developed well by Mike Pellegrino, who was a former cornerbacks coach for the Patriots. That's someone I believe in. If there is an ad and you got to pick one, I'm swinging for that wide receiver room. And to me, it's more of a trade and sign like a Terry McLaurin if he continues to hold out with the Commanders. It's going a route in that way. If you had to pick one or the other, where would you go?
Wide receiving room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one.
You paid Carlton Davis a lot of money. You gave him $30 million plus at signing. Christian Gonzalez is one of the best corners in the league and is so talented. You have that top end talent where you can be a little thinner in a way. Like you
want that name you can brag about a little bit. So I feel like there's a number of
and you don't have
names
that with the wide
defense.
receiver room.
Exactly. And look, I'll take full ownership. I was totally okay with Stephon Diggs coming in.
No, I was too.
I'm also realistic of the fact of the coming off of injury, how impactful, what the reps are going to look like, what the role is really going to look like. So for that name, for that sellable name that needs to be in the mix, I feel like there's a couple of them on defense, and definitely the personalities over there to say so. I don't think it translates to the offense.
I need chain movers and guys that are man beaters. And Stephon Diggs is good with that against zone. Kyle Williams can be that, but he's a rookie. Again, acclimation, learning curve of picking up the system is going to be difficult. In the wide receiver room, and it's Terry McLaurin because we talked about it on Rush. If it doesn't work out with him in Washington, I would be baffled if they let him walk and they don't extend him because they're in the win now window and he's just 30 years old and he's so good. But if they can trade for him and sign him with the cap room they have, as you alluded to, I'm doing that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, well, I think what's also more appealing about him as well is the ability to work with young quarterbacks. I mean, look at what Washington just did and the composure that they had about them and the excitement that they had around them. I think that when you hear a lot of these players talk through minicamp and OTAs and stuff, it's been a fresh energy, but the level of energy being there, I'm not seeing it from Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
You need to see it from a leadership presence to just bring the best out of Drake May. And yes, he's got other guys he can rely on, but just to have somebody that has that vocality, knows how to work with a young quarterback and be able to find success with a young quarterback, I think that's what makes Terry McLaurin that much more appealing as a fit.
And it's beyond like the Jaden Daniels. It's like going back to the Taylor Heineke days of Washington.
Like,
and he's
who the
a
heck thought
1,000-yard
that
receiver.
he'd be working with Taylor Heineken? Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous what he had to overcome over there and still made it seem fun and doable.
Yeah, and a leader, which they need, because Stephon Diggs isn't giving that all the way.
Yeah.